Hello guys, and today I would like to talk about skills that I'm developing for my indie MMO. So first and foremost, we have a very complex skill system. I think I try to add a little bit of new ideas, but I like skill systems that involve usage of skills and skills leveling up and getting better. And it makes me feel like your character is very individualized with the skills they can take and how they level and how you choose to level those skills. So first and foremost, we will obviously come up here. We have the skill ID. This is just tells the server what ID to use to get that skill, to initiate that skill. The skill name, of course, the parent tree. Now we have skill trees that house all of the skills. So let's say you made a swordsman character and you took a swordsman skill tree, you would have a bunch of skills related to all the, like this would be a sword skill and it would go into that tree. And then on the tree side, we also list all of the skills in the tree. So it's kind of like double paired up, if that makes sense. And then of course the icon. So whenever you drag a skill to your bar, this would be the icon displayed on that bar. And we're going to do a little demo run at the end of this, and I'll show you guys exactly how that works in-game and testing. So unlock required tree level, unlock requirements. Obviously, if it's level 0, then it is default unlocked. So if you buy a skill tree, or if your starting race has a skill tree, and let's say you have 2 or 3 skills that are level 0, they will be unlocked to you, and you'll be able to use them right away. Required KP. So I have certain skills, especially the ultimate skills, requiring KP. KP is similar to SP, to buy skills. Not all skills will require this KP to buy them. It's mainly for new skill trees and advanced skills within that tree, so you can further specialize your character using this limited resource per character, and that'll just help you unlock more things. And then leveling. So the max level of the skill, XP per use for that skill, and the tree XP. Now you have a overall skill tree that also has a level that confers you buffs for that specific category of skills. So you could have a permanent buff. So let's say all of your sword skills, if your sword tree is level 5 or whatever, and it just gives you more buffs for that. So you feel like your character's really becoming very unique and something that you created or you molded, similar to real life training. So that's what these level systems are, and we'll go down. This is the skill type, whether it's an AoE, we can actually show you, self-cast, AoE, targeted, projectile, cone, buff, ultimate, or channeled. So channeled being like a flamethrower, which I actually have a channeled skill to showcase to you guys. Damage type, which is physical, fire, water, lightning, earth, magical, poison, heal, and true. So these damage types, we actually have floating damage numbers that correspond to the correct color. So if we use fire, for example, it would be orange, physical, I think is white, and etc. etc. We can change the colors for that damage type. And then scales with stat. So they will scale with a corresponding stat. So if you had a physical ability, it would be strength, or if you had something that was kind of quick, it could be agility, intelligence, it could be any of these things. And since that has this portion here that can be checked off, I wanted to have traits that change scaling. So if you had a certain trait that would allow you to use intelligence, let's just say for weapon scaling versus your strength, so that would make that a very powerful, or an enchantment that changes certain scalings for things, which would be pretty cool. So if you were building an intelligence-based character and you wanted to use a little more physical skills, you could kind of build yourself up to that. Requires weapon type. So this is like obviously for those sword skills. You don't want to be using a sword ability and you can do that with your fist, right? So it doesn't if it doesn't require weapon type, if it's just pure magic casting, then you don't need that. But this is just for specifically weapon skills. All right, min max damage range. So this is the like a D&D like system where it's like 1 to 8, 1 to 6. For testing purposes, I just put it at 20 just to kind of see if I wanted to make it static, let's just say, I could just do 20 and then it would do static 20 damage. While if I wanted it to be a nice range, I could do 1 to 20 and then the modifiers would also kick in. So these are applied to min max. These are flat modifiers and percent modifiers based on your scaling stat. So if you have 12 strength, which just like D&D, that's a +1, it would either be 1% or the flat 1 to damage in general. I'm probably going to be these are flat modifiers, which are a little, I guess, a little concrete. And this is what they were going to be before, and then I decided to switch over to a D&D style stat modifier, which is also optional. This will probably be the main mod to all of our skills. Well, this will probably be to actually enemy skills. I think this would be perfect for enemy skills because they would use mostly flat modifiers or percentage-based modifiers depending on maybe that particular enemy. I do want this skill system to go over to our enemies, with enemies having skills that a character could use in the game. I feel like it's more immersive that way when they have their own magic. Obviously, some unique bosses will probably have unique magic just for that purpose, but they would still be using the same skill container that we're using for all our characters. Now, I went over the D&D stat. So this is a single value damage output, which is kind of the same to the damage modifiers. Once again, these are probably for mostly boss mechanics. So I could have like an AoE attack do base damage, or maybe a targeted attack just do flat base damage with a scaling multiplier, of course, depending on that boss's strength. Or if it's a mini boss, obviously they have less strength, so the skill multiplier might be less. So it would be the same skill that could be scaled up and down, so I wouldn't have to make multiple skills. I could just change around the boss's stats for those skills. Cost and cooldown. Cooldown obviously being how long it takes. 2 is just a float. Energy cost, obviously energy cost, how much energy it costs to cast it. Targeting info, the radius, the range, and the cone angle, especially for channeling or projectiles, stuff like that. Cast animation. So we can use attack animation on cast. So that means that whatever weapon you have, you'll be using their attack state for that weapon when you cast this animation. So this will be good for specialized sword swings or anything like that. Or if you wanted to use a special, let's just say weapon-based attack, it would use that weapon's attack animation for the attack starting. And then obviously you have your cast duration, how long it's going to take to cast. And if you lock face during cast, which is for mainly targeted. If you tab target someone, you will basically lock facing during them when you cast it, and you will shoot at them, which I think is very immersive. You don't want to be running away and your character is shooting a fireball behind their back. Kind of, I feel like it just makes it look a little bit better. And then the cast VFX, obviously, the visual effects that are going to be taking place while you're casting it. And if you're rooted during cast and your cast move. So when you're casting abilities, obviously you probably will move a little bit slower, but you can change this depending on the ability. So if it were an ability, let's just say a weapon attack skill, if maybe the moving multiplier would be a little bit less versus a magic skill where casting it obviously would take some more concentration. So it would be a little more move on the move multiplier. It'd be a little bit, I should say a little bit less. Hit mask, which is just a hit filtering. Who does it hit? How does it hit? Enemies, you can also, we can change this to a certain, we can just check off. So let's just say we wanted to make it items or barrels or anything breakable. I could add that to all of the hit mask for all the skills, etc. Or if I didn't want it to break barrels, if it was something like a heal spell or anything like that, then obviously we would take off enemy and go to player. Visual effects. This is just the visual effects of the actual skill. So if you wanted to play a flame animation while you were using the attack animation, you could do that. This is an offset of the character. So right now it's right on top of the character. But if I want to offset it to that slash, then I could do that. The duration of the VFX before, if it just dies after being played, etc. Projectile prefab. This is just the projectiles. So if I made a fireball prefab, I could throw it in here. I can also show you guys that as well. I have some test skills that I want to test: the projectiles, the channeling, and I have an AoE skill, but it's not quite done because the sprite isn't done, so it's not as nice looking. But once we get the sprite set up, I think these skills will really pop once all the sprite animations are in, and I can show you guys that. Is ultimate. So if it's an ultimate ability, we do have ultimates in the game. I like comeback mechanics, or not comeback mechanics, but I really like ultimates being a thing. The general theme of the game is anime-esque, so I would like to have an anime art style portray a lot of things in the VFX and the ultimates, and I do want transformation skills to also be kind of ultimates where your character is changed, stat buffs for a little, maybe a small period of time, where you are dealing big damage for that short period of time, and really either take out a group of mobs if people are weak, or maybe get a clutch heal off or a clutch attack off at the boss at the last second to really do some major damage. I really do like games that implement an ultimate mechanic. I think it's pretty cool. This is for the channeled settings. So channel duration, tick interval. So this is the damage tick interval. So as you're doing that particular channel, how often are you going to be doing damage? Is it every every tick, which is like instantaneous damage, which obviously would be a lot of damage? Root during channel. So do I stop moving while I'm channeling this attack? Am I slowed down while I'm channeling? Cancel speed threshold. So this is how fast I can cancel. A channel range override, which these are all just overrides for like basically if I'm channeling, if I want to change the VFX from the single to something else, which would be pretty cool if in a concept where if the after a while the VFX is supposed to change. So if you're doing a flamethrower that turns into like a blue flame to signify it heating up, I could use an override. And then these are status effects. So I can plus here, and I can pick a status effect to choose. So if I had any status effect SOs made, I could poison. If you wanted a poison breath or something like that, these on hit would apply that. And you can even have resistance and saves. So save stat, override, strength, intelligent, resistible. So these are overrides so that, let's just say, because obviously it originally would be the status effect scriptable objects save. So if I'm using, let's just say, a burn, and constitution is that burns save. For this, maybe this particular burn, if I wanted a special fire class where all of their checks or save stats are agility instead of constitution, now instead this fire would be, it would override that save from the original and make it agility, making this harder, making this flame harder to get burned by if your agility stat is low versus your constitution, etc. And this could work on anything. So if you wanted to make a special class that just like all status effects are hitting on their wisdom, then I could do that, which would be nice. And let's go here. I'm actually like, this is actually an SO we're using for tests, so let me not mess it up too much. So buff transformation overlay is toggle buff duration. So some buffs will be toggleable, and like transformations will be toggleable, so you can toggle it on and off at will. I do want to make a nice visual effect where maybe the outside of the skill box is like highlighted to let you know that it's toggled on versus toggled off. Overlay. So you have an overlay prefab and you can visually anchor that. So I will give you guys a little bit of a teaser here. I do want to make a kind of Kitsune clan where they are fox people. So in general, when you pick that race, you will have fox ears and a tail that you can choose from. It'll be customizable. And I do want them to have a transformation ability. It's going to be an ultimate ability where they basically embody the Nine-Tails fox, which a lot of people are thinking, oh, you probably got that from Naruto. No, I actually took it from the God of High School. So the God of High School had a really cool character he was like the Nine-Tailed Fox or whatever. And I really liked that visual, and I wanted to bring that to the players. So when you decide to use this ultimate transformation, you have your original tail, and you would grow 8 like energy looking tails, and you'd have a glow about you, and your stats would be increased greatly. So that would be a cool little transformation skill I would have in the game. That's something that's actually planned for that specific clan. So healing range. Now we just added healing. Does it heal? Base minimum heal. So with this, we can have it so that if it does heal, plus it does damage. So you can have like a life drinker attack where you are healing yourself and also attacking the enemy at the same time. So does it heal, etc. I do need to specify whether it's healing you, whether it's healing out, And this is just all the modifiers, which are the same modifiers as our damage, just D&D style heal stat mod. So I do need to test to see if I put does heal, is it only targeted to me unless it's a projectile, etc., etc. I do need to make sure all those things are lined up. But the skills have been a never-ending change fest. I feel like once I get the skills into a good place, I think, oh, I'm gonna need a little something more. And I'm building towards a beta. Obviously, this is for alpha, but I'm building towards a beta, so I'd like more systems in than not. Obviously, I could stop here and probably be okay and just make sure, test everything and make sure everything's lining up and working. But for now, I think I would particularly like particularly like to have more systems in than not and have less problems in the future. So I'm trying to tie up any loose ends, certain things that look bad or just kind of look clunky or janky. I'm trying to kind of patch those up without also going too crazy because I don't want to spiral into just doing nothing but skills for the next year. So if it gives energy, base min, base max, this is the same thing for the healing. It's just basically giving energy. EF is what we call energy force. So energy. And this is cleanses. So does it cleanse statuses? What statuses does it cleanse? Is it a list? So if I made just an antidote cure, then it would just cure poison, let's just say. And yeah, that would be that. So that would be pretty cool for healers to have. Obviously, if you're just tanking some crazy debuffs and you need to cleanse them, if you have a cleanse all, it probably would cost a lot more energy than just a specific cleanse, but it's nice to have either way. Now, this is something that I really like, and this is the level up mechanics. So most of these will be obviously adders. So these adders would just go directly to the bonuses. This is kind of looking a little light, I'm not gonna lie. So this is this is actually, you can specify what level and you can specify per level. So if I wanted to make it just the size bigger and everything bigger per level, this would add to each and every level. I do need to kind of shore up our level up mechanics and add more to it, because as you can see, this is this low because we used to have a lot less on this, and I haven't really been looking at the level up mechanics versus what I've been adding to the base skill. So I would definitely need to add this. And these are added statuses also. So if I wanted to add a burning effect at level 1 to our fireball, then I could do that as well. And then you put that down, you add another element, and then this would be a whole nother mechanic to add to leveling up. But yes, I will definitely need to look at that and expand the level up stats. But for the most part, these are our skills and sort of how our skill trees work in our game. It does need a little bit more work, but I figured I'd show you guys what direction we were heading and how we were going to do things. Like I said, it's good for me to look at these things because the level up stats are definitely need some love and attention, but I'm definitely going to do that before I put any build out towards people or other people or anything like that. I love showcasing demos to you guys in Discord, but if I do a demo, I want this to be at least complete enough that people feel good about it. I don't want to have a demo where I'm telling you guys like, hey, it's pretty broken. I would like to just have a demo where I think it's in a good place, or at least not broken on my end, and then people find things that I overlooked or that I can fix or that I can make better, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to release something that's broken that I know is broken. I'd rather release something that I think is pretty good or pretty airtight, and then have me fix those patches and cracks and holes that people find while playing normally. Well, thank you guys for this devlog. If you watch the whole video, of course, I appreciate you for that. But in any case, stay tuned because I would like to, I'm probably going to have another video out tomorrow about a different system. I'm probably going to go over our races and clans and how those things work. I know you guys mentioned clans. I'm sorry. I know I mentioned clans in this video, but I would like to expand that more in a separate video. Thank you.